Hello and welcome to BTVi. I'm Vikram Oza. Now, many say that traditional print and TV advertising, the way we've understood it, where you convey information about products and services in all those creative ways, has taken a bit of a backseat to what we know today as content marketing, largely because, well, the traditional way is a bit of a one-street way, isn't it? Not much engagement with your consumer. Now you need content that engages, that people react to. It's got context, it's got relevance. That's a new mantra within the marketing fraternity, where you're sharing bits of information that would perhaps be useful to your consumers, indeed with the idea of acquiring and retaining their interest as well as patronage of the brand over a longer period of time than what traditional advertising at least could afford. So for a marketer, it means creating owned media rather than earned media. So what are the benefits that accrue from content marketing? How can marketers adapt it more seamlessly? Should it spread across as many social media platforms or not? And what are the growing trends today? We've got two people in the studio who can answer most of these questions for us. Tripti Lochan is CEO of Southeast Asia and India for VML, a global marketing agency that's headquartered in the US and is part of the communications behemoth WPP since the year 2001. VML, of course, serves brands like, I understand there's Castrol, there is Kellogg's, there's ICICI Bank, as well as Ford. It has been in India for just about 3 years so far. And RP Singh, of course, Tripti's colleague, is the regional head of media who's based here. So he joins us too on this edition of our show In Conversation. So, Tripti, I just want to, at the outset, understand at what level of awareness are we at? The adaptation towards content marketing among Indian companies, where does it stand today?
I think if you talk about awareness, everybody claims to know what content marketing is. And the fun is everyone has their own version of what it stands for. So awareness-wise, I think everybody would know what content marketing is. But do they really know what content marketing is?
Or what it can do for you?
Yeah, is a question that needs to be.
Are there early adapters, people who have understood content marketing? There are some good examples that you can cite where you think that they've understood what content marketing is and what it can do for you.
If I look back and from my childhood, the oldest content marketing that I can remember is Amul.
We all remember Amul.
Yeah. And the posts that we would see of Amul that was valuable and relevant and talked to every individual themselves. I think with all the talk about content marketing going on, what it is and what it is not, that Amul ad should be a lighthouse of what content marketing can be.
So relevance, the contextuality, the relevance, and then being the topic of the day, as it were, all of that needs to be built in. What do you think Amul has done right? Because obviously they've come in much before all the social media craze has come into this country, and they made a success of content marketing even before we understood what that is. What do you think has worked out for Amul so far?
I think they have understood the Indian consumer very well. If you look at what Amul does around a topic, most of the time you tend to agree with them. So they have understood the Indian consumer very, very well. And because they have been doing it for the last 40, 50 years, they are in the best place to understand the Indian consumer.
So that's a crucial aspect, to understand the Indian consumer or to understand your basic target audience. Now that, one would say, is the basis of reaching out in whatever kind of messaging that you want to do in your campaigns. That's basic. But much more so when you talk about content marketing. Why is that? When you need to understand your consumer that much better.
Content marketing, by the nature of what it's supposed to do, is supposed to, like you said earlier, provide relevance and actual value to your end consumer. And the position you can occupy in that value chain, you are nowhere. Before just saying content marketing is about videos that we need to create and start creating them, we need to figure out where we want to be vis-a-vis our consumer's mind space. And once we've decided what that is, to be there for the long haul with content where our brand directly maybe or may not be plastered, in every piece of content that we do, but has some connection or the other.
Correct. But of course, Indian culture is a lot about storytelling. So I'm just wondering whether there is a part of content marketing that is inbuilt in how we communicate in any case. We love telling stories. And content marketing is a lot about that. So RP, do you think when you're kind of creating content for some of your consumers, for many of your clients, how exactly are you approaching, leveraging perhaps the basic storytelling nature of our environment?
Human beings are storytellers by nature.
Right.
So it's not about whether we are Indians or we are not, because it is not about what culture you are in. It is all about understanding the human being and what life stage he is in, and what are you now selling or trying to sell, and then create content around it. I keep going back to the same point of how well you understand your consumer, because a lot of brands today, they create content and they think it will do wonders for them. And it does not, because first of all, the connection with the category and what they're creating in terms of content, there's a misfit somewhere.
Okay.
I think a great example of that is seriously Bang Baja Barat. It's a series created by Viacom Films.
Right.
Phenomenally interesting. I love the series. It's in 5 parts. Each one is 15 to 20 minutes, and I watched it twice.
Okay.
It's sponsored by Lakme. A small fact that if you went and asked 20 people who have seen the film, if they remember, I wonder how many of them will remember it's done by, Lakme, sponsored by Lakme.
Right.
Because there's no correlation really that they've tried to create or own as a space. And conversely, if you look at another piece of content done recently, which is the Six Pack Band, right, which Brook Bond has sponsored. And Brook Bond has always stood for removing prejudices one teacup at a time.
Correct.
And
Yes.
they have done that with
Yes.
this as well.
Yes.
So, the correlation and the remembrance of that is so much higher.
Right. I understand. As in, by way of social causes, that's always going to be a tricky one. We started talking about Amul. You're talking about Brook Bond as well. But I understand the importance of the correlation, how you're going to fit in the messaging with what the brand could stand for.
Yeah.
So that is an important marriage that needs to happen. But, and I'll come to those points a little bit later, but I just want to figure out, right now, we're seeing so many startups. There is a lot of emphasis on the transactional quality of what they are going for, because there's so much investment coming in, they have to justify it by their sales numbers. So you need some instant gratification. You need those numbers to show up. With content marketing, it just seems, because it's storytelling, because it kind of takes, it's a process of positioning a brand, more in the realm of brand building, if I can go back to that. In this day and age, for India, for the kind of startups and for the kind of ecosystems that we are seeing getting built around facilitating transactions, as it were, what role does content marketing have to play in that kind of environment?
So I'm going to choose an example to quote that's not from India, okay? And that's just to show you where it could go. So VML in North America has done a campaign for Wendy's.
Okay.
They found that when they launched with their pretzel cheeseburger, that their customers loved it, and they started tweeting about it. And the tweets were really funny tweets like, fire in my mouth, and things like that. We latched onto that idea and picked up those tweets and had boy bands and the like actually sync the tweets in a 4-part series. It had tremendous success. Their share point went up 1.7% during the campaign period of
There's
2.5 months.
immediate ROI for you there?
There we go. It doesn't necessarily have to be a long haul, persistent, non-gratification kind of thing. But it depends very much in the category that you're in.
Right.
And I think RP's favorite example is Amex.
Yeah. So if you look at what American Express has done with SME as a community, which is in any country the backbone of the economy, so they've created open forum.
Right.
And after 6-7 years, now they're able to save 60% of their marketing costs, because 60% of the leads for their cards are coming through the channel. Now what they have done, it's a very simple, very scalable idea that they have built. SMEs go through a lot of problems while setting up, while dealing with government, while dealing with policy makers, infrastructure. They have made those problems available with solutions. So if you have this kind of a problem with this kind of a department, this is how you go about it. And what else you need as a SME, if you can rely on somebody, and this is not somebody, this is American Express, so very credible source. So all that information is available to you on a platform which is digitally available. You don't need anything else. And that is how American Express is a great case study globally, which is now reaping benefits of what they thought in the right direction by understanding what SMEs need.
Sure. But it also brings me to the question, because we are talking so much in terms of what is non-video content. When you talk about content marketing today, there seems to be a burst of video.
Yeah.
And that one begins to think that, is that the way to go only? When you are at a starting point, for example, when you're thinking of a content marketing strategy, should video be top of mind?
Yeah. It's a very interesting point you've raised, Vikram, because I think just by the prevalence of video has come to the fore only because a lot of content is being consumed in video format. But I think we have to go back to our basics. We have to go back and think, what is the position we're trying to occupy? Before thinking about assets, what's happening increasingly is there are people who are creating wonderful videos.
Okay.
They are coming to agencies who may or may not have a brand, and then a marriage of convenience is happening, somewhere there.
Right. So content is getting created first, and then it's getting sold. Sponsors are being sought.
Yes.
And that's not the perfect scenario for content
Exactly.
marketing. But going ahead in the sense of being able to create meaningful content, relevant content, something that is contextually right for your consumers, is there a formula at work over here?
I would follow a process of planning, finding the perfect space, and then deciding channels,
Okay.
and then deciding content. And I'll give you one example, again global, of what we've done with Tourism Tennessee.
Okay.
Right? It's a recent Cannes winner. In the last Cannes, we got a gold for this one, where what we did is to push the tourism in the country, in the state, we created assets of content that were about our restaurants and about the fact that it was a music state, all the attractions you could see and everything else. And we kept that ready, thousands and pieces of content, right? Meanwhile, whenever a consumer was surfing the web, we captured hundreds of data points to say what were their interest points.
Okay.
Right? And we said, okay, they are interested in steakhouses, they like to watch the opera, yada yada. And then we stitched together the perfect piece of content for that consumer, which was served to them as a contextualized ad just for them, right? Which had all the things that they were interested in,
Sure.
in the form of a content piece, which also synced with their mobile device,
Right.
so that when, in the eventuality that they really visited, it would show them routes on how to get to that perfect itinerary that was matched for what they were looking for.
Right.
Now here you've created value for the consumer.
Sure.
You've looked at what they are interested in. And because of technology, you've been able to customize it as one-to-one content marketing.
Correct.
And you've gone on from there.
So
to me-
one-to-one content marketing, the customization of which becomes the next real, it's something on the horizon
mantra,
yet, right?
yeah.
It is the way to go.
Yep.
I would feel very special if marketers are reaching out to me as a person,
Yeah.
rather than something that is mass, something that we are used to already.
Yeah.
But this makes you feel special, like you've understood my interest and given me content that I can use, that is relevant and contextualized. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and how exactly do you create content marketing that is efficacious when you talk about the ROI factor as well, and content marketing that really works by way of the creativity of that content. We'll bring that up in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We're in conversation with the people who are in the business of content marketing, and we're trying to understand the space better. Just before the break, Trupti, we were talking about how you create all this content that is going to be customized. I'm just wondering whether, for the sake of efficiency of ad spends, is that the reason why we're going after this kind of customization as well? How probable is it? I mean, what kind of tools are available to me to understand my consumers better? Does it require that much more by way of inputs of money to kind of make sure that I am able to understand my consumer well enough? And one-on-one marketing would take that much more, I would imagine, but correct me if I'm wrong.
So there are various end states in understanding a consumer. VML, in association with Vice this year, did a program called 7 Days Out.
Okay.
And 7 Days Out is about taking typically a planner from within the agency and letting them explore in the life of specific target audiences by actually having them live that life.
Okay.
The other end of the spectrum is where you're using tools and techniques to see behavior on a clickstream data, as an example.
And all of this data is easy to find?
With a lot of digital channels and digital tools coming into the picture now, I think the job has become easier.
Okay.
But if you look at, I'm very old school, sorry, but if you look
Don't
at,
need to apologize.
if you look at the marketing funnel, you know, there is top of the funnel, there is middle funnel, and there is bottom of the funnel.
Right.
If any marketer can understand the content requirements at each stage, that's the holy grail.
Mm-hmm.
If you think one video plastered across social channels for all your objectives will do the job, that's the wrong step in the first place.
Right.
You know, so therefore, the help is there. You know, your social listening data, your Google Trends, Google Alerts, as simple, free.
Right. Absolutely.
So there is a lot of data and help available.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to make use of it.
Correct. How do you create material around social causes as well? Because the way content marketing is built in today's day and age is about latching on to something that is already top of mind for your consumers and building on something like that. Now, I've seen where you've tried to stay away from that and create content that doesn't necessarily emerge from any original bearing on what the consumers are thinking. In the case of Coke Studio, for example.
Yeah.
There is music and there is a universality to it. But Coke Studio is shutting down now, from what I've heard. It didn't work for them, but it took 6 years for them to figure out that it's not really working. Why do you think that is the case?
I think with consumers becoming more smart, they want content, but they want content coming from a subject matter expert. So you can enjoy content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my simple definition is controversy is not equal to content. You know, so a lot of brands try to own controversies and try to do something around controversies, irrespective of whether they relate with that controversy or not, just to ride on the wave. And the controversy is over in a day or two, and the brand is in same position to rest. So that kind of content marketing, first of all, it's not content marketing. And if they think it is content marketing, it will never work for a brand.
Right.
You need to come from a point of authority that I know this subject. You know, old example, but one of the beautiful examples, Baby Center.
Okay.
Coming from Johnson's.
Right.
We know they know babies.
They understand babies.
They understand babies. And for a mother who is minus 9 months in her pregnancy, that's the Bible. You know, till about the baby turns 3.
Right.
And after 3, Baby Center kicks you out because they have nothing after 3, because they have
the
clarified.
expertise is so much more on that specific time period.
That's only for those 36
and they've
plus.
built authority on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then your brand value goes up because you're thought of as being helpful to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, like I said, social causes, there is this entire thing about being conversation starters. All of that needs to be weighed in. But sometimes there is, like I said, the double-edged sword as well. It will play against you as well. So you need to know how exactly you're going to play into social causes. It's not as easy as picking out a Twitter trending topic and saying, let me create something out of this. So that is something that your clients would come to you and you would say, no, that's not the route we're taking.
No, as I said, they will want to ride on a popular topic. So, okay, if somebody is talking about the Prime Minister of India doing something in some parts of the country, can we be part of it? No, you cannot. It is a different thing altogether.
Correct.
What you are doing is for your consumers. What he is doing is for the country.
Right.
Now, the same cannot be compared.
Yes.
You know?
So entirely, this Make in India drive, I saw a lot of brands latching onto it, or whether it was Startup India, I saw a lot of brands jumping onto that bandwagon as well. Chai Pe Charcha is something that many have built a lot of their brand messages on. So all of those are aspects that can be looked into, but not necessarily have to be something that you adopt.
Because you risk it to the popularity of the topic.
Right. Absolutely. We'll take another quick break. Let's understand the procedure, because like I said, a lot of content is being generated in one space and then you're trying to fit it retrofitted perhaps into brands and how they're going to use the content that is being created elsewhere. We'll talk about what is the correct way of creating content, marketing, plans and strategies right after this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We're understanding the concept of content marketing as much as it's out there. Perhaps in a day where we're looking at so many startups, so many new entrepreneurs coming in, how exactly do you go about the process of doing this right, as it were? So when you talk about setting out goals, and we did hint on that as well, when someone is trying to draw up a plan as far as content marketing is concerned, what is the right approach to this? What are the steps that one definitely needs to follow? Because you said goal setting is one big part of the agenda, why you're doing a certain content plan.
Let me take a very day-to-day example. If you have to buy a dress for your wife, what do? Do you buy a dress and give it to your wife? Or do you take your wife along and let her choose the dress? Mm-hmm. And if you're doing it the other way, which is taking the wife to the shop and let her choose, this is how exactly content marketing should work. Define what is or what will be liked by the consumer. Mm-hmm. Define why are you doing it. Define what is the space you want to own.
Okay.
And then start creating content.
Right.
If you create content and take it to consumers, there is only 50% chance of it succeeding because you never spoke to the consumers.
Sure. So how well do you need to know your consumers as well? Right at the starting point, where does that come in?
I think right at the beginning, before the beginning, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like TV channels. They do so much research to decide what production should happen in this next few months, based on what consumers are talking about or are interested in or past have been interested in. Mm-hmm. Brands need to do exactly the same.
So all the time you're going back to the drawing board. So like you said, we're going back to basics. There is a lot of experimentation that is possible within this space as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be all about video. Yeah. There is the kind of customization that is possible right now. Data is available to understand your consumers that much better. And obviously, at this point in time, we're looking at a lot of innovation within this space and considering how India is adapting mobile technology today, we're seeing that much more access, that much more prevalence of content marketing. The possibilities seem endless right now. You'd agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yes?
I think people look at mobile, people as in brands look at mobile and they think, oh, new problem. But that is the opportunity. Mm-hmm. How can you give content for this particular thing, a mobile phone, which is so close to the consumer all the time.
Correct.
And especially in India, which is majorly mobile market. Mm-hmm. I think it throws a huge opportunity. And to what Tripti said, publishers, so there are three parties in the ecosystem: publishers, brands, and content creators, or agencies.
Yes.
Publishers are the best people in this ecosystem to understand the consumer. And I think it's not about thinking like a publisher, as we call it. It's about thinking, behaving, and acting like a publisher. And that is what brands should do.
Right. Possibility is endless. We're at the starting point. Looking very exciting right now. Good luck with all your plans.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us with your perspective on what is clearly a place that is a buzz. I'm Vikram Oza from me and the team. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.